This is the dark side of our electronic way of life. Televisions and computers discarded by the million, victims of our culture of the upgrade. But while these units are soon forgotten, the hazardous metals inside them remain as toxic as ever, and the volume just keeps rising. Meet the new waste mountain, electronics, no longer as shiny as they were in the showroom, now chucked onto the scrap heap. The numbers involved in this are staggering. This is a tiny fraction of a growing and global problem. According to the UN Environment Programme, the world throws out up to 50 million tonnes of electronic waste every year. In the same period, British households alone discard 93 million old electronic items. And in America, 500 million PCs will have become obsolete by next year, according to official figures. This is what's supposed to happen, everything dismantled safely. Here at this new recycling plant in Teesside, the old electronics are broken up and the poisonous components extracted. But most electronic waste isn't handled this carefully. It ends up in landfill, or it's smuggled abroad to be picked apart by unprotected hands.
It's absolutely paramount that this product is handled appropriately, it's broken down appropriately, and similarly it doesn't go into landfill, or with probably some less scrupulous cases actually going overseas to the sort of situation where you may have in China, for example, with products being handled without any protective equipment.
In the last few days, this container was impounded at Southampton docks on its way to China. Inside, illegal waste. Not electronic this time, but all too often it is. And to face this growing threat, there's a rush to train new inspectors. Shipments of smuggled electronic waste are suddenly increasing.
There's likely to be more of these that are coming through our ports in the UK. We want to have a bigger group of people carrying out inspections to detect these shipments, and that's why we're training up to 50 people over the next 2 months to carry out that work.
But the challenge is huge. We usually think of containers bringing us cheap electronics from Asia. But there's a more sinister trade the other way as well.
There's a good chance that this is where your old computer or printer or mobile phone is going to end up, dumped beside a river here in southern China. I'm just outside the town of Guiyu, which is just over there beyond the fields. And Guiyu is the world centre for a huge and lucrative trade in reprocessing electronic waste. China actually completely bans the importation of any electronic waste from anywhere else in the world. But as you'll see in a minute when we go into Guiyu, that's done absolutely nothing to stop the flow of a vast quantity of waste from all over the world, ending up here.
The streets of Guiyu are piled high with it. In every side street and alleyway, fresh lorry loads were being unloaded. For less than £2 a day, the workers here tear the computers apart by hand. Dismantling computers like this is not illegal. But because the waste is smuggled into China, people are scared of talking about what goes on here. Eventually, we found one scrap dealer. His face has been hidden for his own safety. Stuff from Europe arrives here every day, he tells me. In Europe it would cost too much to recycle this stuff. It just gets thrown away. But here we can reclaim everything. All the copper, the aluminium, even the gold. He's right, but at what cost? With a secret camera we managed to film these workers recycling circuit boards. They're melted over a stove. The fumes are thick with lead, which causes brain damage. What's left is then dumped beside the river. Soil tests here have shown lead levels 200 times the safe limit. At night, it's all set fire to, filling the air with deadly dioxins.
Every year, the world throws away an ever-increasing amount of electronic junk. On average, we now change our mobile phones every 18 months, our computers every 3 to 4 years. Most of us give little or no thought at all about what happens to it once it's gone. But without much greater efforts by governments, manufacturers and by consumers, it's going to continue ending up like this, a burning toxic heap in somebody else's backyard. Rupert Wingfield Hayes, BBC News in Guiyu, southern China.